Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin, and for today's video I'm going to be telling you all of the books that I read in the month of February. So, I had a very good reading month in the month of February. I don't know what happened, but I managed to read the most amount of books that I've ever read in a month, and in the shortest month of the year at that. So I am so excited and so pleased with myself. I managed to read 11 books this month. Granted, a lot of them were short, but I still read 11 books nonetheless, and now I have read 16 books. I am mind blown and so happy, so I'm going to be telling you about all of them. I'm so excited. Not only did I have a good reading month quantity-wise, I also enjoyed most of the books that I was reading this month, like thoroughly enjoyed them, and I don't think there was one that I actually hated. So it was great quality-wise too, and I'm just so excited and really hoping that March is just as good of a month. So the very first book that I read this month was The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. I believe I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. This is a graphic novel, and it's about a prince who, during the day, he has all of his princely duties, and then at nighttime, he and his friend, who is a dressmaker, they go out and she dresses him up with all of these custom-made dresses, and he gets to go out as a girl, and he loves it, but he has to keep it a secret because his family doesn't know, and he's royalty, and he doesn't know what would happen to him or how they would react if they find out. This was so sweet, and it was so cute, and I absolutely loved it. This is like a contemporary graphic novel. So, yeah. 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this one. The next one that I read was Fame, Fate, and the First Kiss by Casey West. This I have been anticipating since I knew about it. I read all of Casey West's contemporaries, so this was, obviously, I had to pick it up. This is about a girl named Lacey Barnes, and she gets her first big film. It's an indie film, but there's a really popular actor in it, and he's the male lead and she's the female lead. And while she's on set and away from school, her dad hires a tutor for her, and it's like a love to hate trope, and I really enjoyed it. The tutor is super cute and one of my favorite Casey West love interests. This was not my favorite Casey West. I think I gave it 3.75 out of 5 stars. It was okay, I didn't really care, but I did really love this love interest. Something that I thought was super cool about this book was before a lot of the chapters, or right at the end, however you want to look at it, of a lot of the chapters, there was a little excerpt from their script that, they had to write, and it was super cute. Plus there was a little mystery aspect at the end of it. It wasn't anything super suspenseful, and I wasn't really shocked by it, but it was kind of cool to see her dip her toe into that, and it was just something fun and added in this book. Another thing that I think a lot of people might like about this book is that you get to see a really interesting relationship between her and her father, who she's not super close with. So there's that familial relationship and trying to understand her father's point of view and him not understanding her, and I feel like maybe a lot of other people could relate to that. It wasn't something that I really related to, but definitely that's an aspect of it that maybe might interest people. The next book that I read was a graphic novel, and that was Fence Volume 1 by C.S. Pacat. I am obsessed with this graphic novel series. So this is another contemporary graphic novel series, but this one is, as you might assume, about fencing, and it's so good. It's about this kid who hasn't really had a ton of training. He's a good fencer, but he's not best, and he is going to this private school hoping to make the team so that he can keep his scholarship because he doesn't have a ton of money, but they have to try out for the fencing team, and not very many people can be on it. I think it's 3 people can be on it, and he is facing this one kid named Seji, that's who's on the cover, and he has to beat him, but Seiji is really, really good and has had tons of practice. Nobody knows why he's at this third-rate school, because he could be another place that's like way better. But yeah, it's so interesting. You get to learn so much about fencing, which I thought was really cool. I loved learning about fencing. Like, now I want to either watch or like try it. I mean, I don't think I would be good at it because I'm a klutz, but I think it would be so cool. Like, this was so good and I loved it. I loved it, and I gave it, I think, 4 or 5 out of 5 stars. I couldn't remember, but I loved it. You guys, the next book might be my new favorite book of all time. I'm not even kidding. I loved this book. Like, if you saw my reading vlog, you saw me rage about it, I think. I loved this book. And that is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. This book absolutely destroyed me. So, as you can see, I annotated the whole thing. I was a mess during this whole book. This is 477 pages. I was a mess for all of the pages. This book is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and what it reminds me of is it's like A Court of Thorns and Roses, if A Court of Thorns and Roses got an upgrade. And I loved A Court of Thorns and Roses, so that is not me trashing it at all. I loved that book. But this book was like done better, in my opinion. So basically, the way that this curse works, because I feel like it's different with every single Beauty and the Beast retelling, is so Ren is the Beast, and he has like an officer, commander officer, a guard, whatever you want to call it, and every season there is a new girl, and he has an infinite amount of like seasons, and he's been doing this for a long time, and he has to make the girl fall in love with him, or he transforms into this horrible monster and it like ruins his life. And every season he comes back normal as a human, and Gray comes back, and a lot of the time he's killed a lot of people and they don't come back, and it's really heartbreaking. But then we have the main character, or the female main character, Harper, and she has cerebral palsy, which is so cool. Like, it's not something that she lets get in the way. Like, sometimes she has to rest because with her incident of cerebral palsy, she just has a bit of a limp, and people notice it, and she's like, okay, that's not who I am. This is a part of me, but it's not who I am, and like, we're gonna push through this. It's not bothering me. It should not bother you. But when it does bother her, she knows to take a rest and take care of herself, and then she can continue on, which I love because it's so frustrating when characters are like, no, I can do it, and then they hurt themselves even more, and you're like, no, you can't do it. Not yet. Just chill for 5 seconds and you'll be fine, and then you can do it. I promise. But like, she knows her limits, and she's also pushing them, if that makes sense, but not in an annoying way. I don't know, but she lives in Washington, D.C. with her mom and her brother, and her mom is suffering from a very terminal illness, and her brother is involved with the wrong people, and so she's trying to take care of them and protect them, but like, her brother won't let her, and the story takes off from there. Something else that I loved about this book was it was so incredibly funny. So yeah, it ripped my heart out and it was so sad, but I literally laughed out loud so many times while reading this book. It was so good. Oh my goodness, like, I have so many, the purple ones are the ones where I laughed. And I have so many just little tabs of like where I laughed. So, oh, that's a spoiler. They're all spoilers, otherwise I would read them to you. But they're so funny, and I loved it. I loved it, I loved it, I loved it. It was also super, super sad. As I said, I cried real tears a bunch of times, and it takes a lot for me to cry at a book. It really does, and I cried a lot of tears, and it was so good. I loved all of the characters. I love this story. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I'm going to stop talking about it because you're probably bored. Then I finished up a fantasy that I have been reading for way too long, and that is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nagan. This is an Asian-inspired fantasy about a girl who is ripped from her home to basically be a sex slave of the Demon King. Because she is the lowest caste, which is paper, which just means that she's human. And then the next caste up is demon and human combined, and then after that it's just full demon, and the demons rule this world. And her mother was ripped away from her home by demons, and so she really resents the king for that. I really enjoyed this story. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I just felt a really big disconnect, and also the ending kind of fell flat for me. It wasn't what I was expecting, but it also, like, what I was expecting in my head, what I thought was going to happen, I thought would have been better, and I would have liked it if I had predicted the ending, but that's just my opinion. I don't know, it was really good, and I think a lot of people will really enjoy it, or have enjoyed it if you have already read it. It just, something was off for me for this. Like I said, it's an Asian-inspired fantasy. She gets ripped from her home to go to the king's palace and basically be his sex slave, and she also has to learn the ways of the court while she's there and deal with all of the other girls that are chosen to be his sex slaves. Normally there are 8, but this year there were 9 because she was like a special addition for some reason that she has to kind of figure out. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not excited about this one like I was the last one. The rest of the month, I read a bunch of really, really short books while I was reading bigger books and didn't finish the bigger books. And so I read Fence Volume 2. I had to pick this up and read it. I loved it. I think I either gave it 4 or 5 out of 5 stars. It's just the continuation of the first story, and it's so good. In the first book, I remember this now, I didn't like the main character. He was super annoying, but I didn't really feel that in this one. He was a lot less annoying in my opinion. So, did really enjoy this. Cannot wait for Volume 3. These are super duper short, even for graphic novels, and so like I'm dying. Then I read something that was a little bit less exciting and probably like my least favorite read of the whole month, and that was Paper Girls 4. No one is shocked by this. Everyone knows, I feel like, that I am not a fan of this series. I don't know why I keep reading it. I think that I might be done with it after this one. Like I said, I would try and read Volume 5, but I don't know if I'm going to. I'm just not into it. It's so confusing. I don't like how confused I am by any of it. I feel like it's not well explained. Like, even if the characters don't know what happens, like, I would like to know a little bit more so I could understand, but I barely know who the characters are because this is a sci-fi time travel graphic novel about these 4 girls who were on a paper route and some things happened, and it's so confusing. I don't understand it. If you've read it and you understand it, please in the comments below tell me what is going on because I don't know. The last 3 books that I read this month were all poetry books, and the first one was Her Volume 1 by Pierre-Alex Gentil, I think is how you pronounce his last name. 5 out of 5 stars. The best poetry book I have ever read. This is the first poetry book where I've thoroughly enjoyed every single poem, but I loved a lot of them. That's what the pink tabs are for. I loved this so much. The best poetry book I have ever read, for sure. So of course, I had to pick up Her Volume 2. The blue tabs were poems that I really liked, but the pink tabs were the poems that I really loved. That would have been the whole book, which is why I only did it to this one. I think I gave this one either 3 or 4 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy it, but it was a lot less than the other one, which I feel like it's just how it laid out. It's not that the quality of the poems went down in this one. There were just a lot less that I could relate to, and poetry is a very like personal thing. So it's not to say that this is bad and you won't enjoy it, because like I said, poetry is a very personal thing, so definitely pick it up if you are interested. I did still enjoy a decent amount of these poems, as you can see. In the last one, I have to buy a copy of myself because I borrowed it from my friend. But that was Flux by Orion Carlotto? I have no idea how you pronounce her last name. I apologize. This was so good. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's probably like 4.75 because I didn't love it as much as her volume 1, but I did really love it. I have a whole thing of I have a whole notes list in my phone of all of the poems that I want to go back and annotate and mark up and put a post-it in, but obviously this is not my copy, so I didn't do that, but I really, really loved this one a lot as well. This is like probably my second favorite poetry book that I've ever read. I forgot to tell you the second book that I read this month because I don't own it physically. I read it online. Okay, so you're probably thinking that was only 10 books. I did read another book, and it was Heartstoppers, Volume 1 by Alice Oseman. That is a boy meets boy love story. It's really cute. I think I gave it like 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the art style. It's another contemporary graphic novel. I read that. That was the second book that I read this month. Otherwise, they're all in order. I forgot that one, but it was good. I liked it a lot. These are most of the books that I read this month. I had such a good reading month, and I'm so proud of myself for reading this much. I read like over 2,000 pages this month, which is crazy. It's not that crazy, but still feels a little crazy. I really hope that you guys are proud of yourselves with all of the reading that you did this month. Even if you just read one book, even if you just read one page, you killed it. Oh, we're not having a repeat of my March TBR. Anyway, I'm gonna go before all of this falls, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye, guys. Oh, buddy, are you okay? You slipped. Do we need to